hospital, say like Juravinsky or St. Joe's or Hamilton Health Sciences, you know, here in our city. For all you know, you might be pushing around the CEO of a company if you're pushing around a wheelchair, and that's someone who will probably remember you. And when they're well, when they're back at work, they just might remember your kindness. They may call on you and say, "Hey, I remember you. You helped me when I was in the hospital, and now I want to help you." That's just one quick example. But volunteering is a wonderful way to get some networking opportunities, and I can't stress that one enough. Have a positive attitude and put the needs of others before your own. If you display those attributes, people are going to be drawn to you, and it's not just a great opportunity, but they will want to help you meet your needs. And you know, my role model for saying this is my mother. My mother, as Eva knows, is one of the most kind-hearted, caring, loving people you'll ever meet. We had her 80th birthday party last October, and I had the pleasure of doing a tribute to her. And one of the things I said to her is that one of the things I admire, and I'm going to try and say this without getting too emotional, is that she is so positive. She has such a positive attitude to life. And you know, one of the things I said to her is that, you know, because my mother turned 80, she grew up with the music of the 30s and the 40s. And to me, the theme song for having a positive attitude is accentuate the positive. I'm sure it's a song we've all heard. It was written by Harold Arlen, the same guy who wrote Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. A lot of people don't know that, but accentuate the positive, to me, that's your theme song for having a positive attitude. So Mom, if you're watching this, I love you. Thank you for sharing that with me and all of us. Networking doesn't have to be work. We tend to forget that sometimes. You can practice it anywhere, and you can have fun doing it. You're at friends. You're with friends in the cottage. You might be at, say, a Blue Jays game or a Tiger Cat game or another sporting event. Or it can be a backyard barbecue. I want to quickly share with all of you a story about how that applied. This is, as I've said a couple of times now, I grew up in Montreal. Back in the, I think it was the early 70s, I went to an Expos game at Jarry Park. This was before they moved over to the Olympic Stadium. And I was with a high school friend of mine. We sat in the bleachers. Beautiful, warm, sunny day, very much like the day we're having today here in Hamilton. And we got chatting with a gentleman sitting next to us who was from Vermont. And of course, if you know Montreal, Vermont is kind of like what Buffalo and upstate New York is for us here in Hamilton. You could drive there in an hour from Montreal. We got chatting with him and we had a wonderful time, and you know, he really enjoyed being with us, and he asked us for our addresses afterwards. Turned out this guy was the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Vermont. Wow. Just a wonderful man. And I remember a couple of weeks later getting a letter from him. I think I still have it in my papers somewhere at home. Maybe next time I'm at the house, I'll have to ask Mom if you could find it for me. Written on state letterhead, addressed to me, my address in St. Lambert, and it basically said, you know, "Dear Greg, thank you for your kindness at the Expos game. I enjoyed your hospitality. You really made my day for me and my family. If you're ever in Montpelier, which is the capital of Vermont, I'd love to give you a tour of the state capitol," and on and on and on and on. And it was great. It was absolutely marvelous. And I think if I had said to him, of course this was 40 years ago, this was before the internet, so I couldn't find information on a website or email. If I had written him back to him and said, "I'd like to know more about something to the city in Vermont," or "I want to know about a company," or "I want to know about fill in the blank," something to do with the state, because I already had that connection, I'm sure he would have done that for me. Of course, being the Lieutenant Governor, he probably couldn't have done it himself. I'm sure he would have delegated it to, yes, an admin assistant. I'm sure that one of those people would have got the information I wanted. But I just want to share that with you to show that networking doesn't have to be work. It can be fun too, and you never know when that opportunity will come. Networking is all about listening to others. I think a great skill in networking is be a good listener. Find out what their goals are in terms of networking and their objectives, and then do your best to help those people achieve them. I think they'll think a lot better of you if you do listen, pay attention, and take what they say to heart, and then as a good networker, do what you can to help them succeed. Be specific on what you want to achieve through networking. Sometimes people networking, they don't have a focus. They're just all over the map. You have no idea what they're talking about. That doesn't work in most aspects of life. It doesn't work in networking either. So the sharper you define your goals and objectives, the more successful I think you're going to be. Okay, I don't believe in just talking about networking. I like to do it too. So I thought it would be important, just before I wrap up, to share with you a couple of networking groups here in the Toronto area that I am involved with. This one, the first one is called the Burlington Coffee Group. We meet on the fourth Saturday morning of every month at 8:30, and we're at the Williams Fresh Cafe at Brant and the North Service Road in the Burlington Power Center. I'm sure probably most of you know where that is. You get off at exit 100 on the QEW, you go north for about 30 seconds on Brant, take the first left. It's the same plaza. There's a Sobeys and there's an Indigo and some other things in there. We do that once a month on a Saturday morning. There's a sister group to us called the Mississauga Coffee Hunters. They meet on the second Saturday morning of every month at various places around Mississauga and Oakville. If you want to know more about the Burlington Coffee Group, I'll give you my website, because especially for those people watching on video, I don't know how clearly you can see what's on the screen here, but the website for our coffee group is www.gregcbrown.com, which is, yes, my website, /coffeegroup.html. If you want to know more about the Coffee Hunters, send me an email. I will give you my contact information in just a moment, and you're more than welcome to send me an email, and I'll direct you to the Mississauga Coffee Hunters. Here's another group you may not know about, Business in Burlington. We meet on the first Wednesday evening of each month from 5 o'clock to approximately 7 or 7:30. We meet at a place called the Ivy Bar and Kitchen. It's on the South Service Road. It's about halfway between Guelph and Walker's Line. And you can find us at meetup.com/business in Burlington. I mentioned my friends of the CFL group on LinkedIn. We've recently kind of taken that to another level with the help of Kevin Ivan. You may recognize that name. He played in the CFL for many years with both the Argos and the Tiger Cats, and Kevin and I are now working together on an initiative called Friends of the Canadian Football League, the Meetup Edition. So it's meetup.com/friends-the-Canadian-Football-League-CFL. I don't know why you put so many dashes in there, but Kevin was the one who came up with the URL, so don't blame the messenger. I'm just passing it along. And one more. This is actually a group that I only just found out about earlier this week. I gather this is a brand new initiative, and I thought I'd try and help them along by incorporating it in my presentation. This is the Mississauga Speed Networking Group. I'm sure we're all familiar with speed dating, or we've at least heard about the concept. This is the same idea, but it's networking. So in other words, you might be at a table sitting across from another person. You get to talk to them for 2 minutes and network with them. Then a bell rings and you go to another table and you spend 2 minutes talking to another person, and so on like that. They're going to meet, I gather, at Failcha, which is an Irish pub in Mississauga in the Square One area. This one is meetup.com/Mississauga. There's more dashes here. Mississauga-speed-networking-group. So there's another one. Okay, question and answer time. I did say I wanted to leave with just a couple of minutes. I hope I've raised some issues with all of you over the 20 minutes or so that I've been talking. I've covered a lot of material. I may have left your head spinning because I've thrown a lot of things at you over the last few minutes. So I hope over the course of this presentation I've shared with you some valuable tips on how to become a more effective networker. So I thought just before we wrap up, does anybody have a question or a comment that they might want to share with me and the others in the room? Yeah?
When you're beginning to establish relationships with organizations, how do you go about doing it so without making yourself sound desperate?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We talk about that a lot at Happen, because a lot of our members are unemployed. And sometimes for several months they don't want to appear that they're desperate. I think the way I would answer that is obviously don't say that, because because if you come across as being desperate, they won't touch you with a 20-foot pole. But I think if you try and put a positive spin on it, if you want to say things like, I've heard about your organization, I'm very interested in learning more, sell them on why you'd like to learn more about them, why you can be an asset, to the company. Yeah.
So maybe not necessarily for job opportunities, for
Yeah.
more engagement with your own company that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
How would you go about doing that after the first initial engagement has met? You guys have already met in a setting, exchanged emails, linked together,
Right.
talked. What would be the next step?
That's an interesting one. Perhaps, well, have you tried maybe personal dialogue, reaching out to the person and talking to them?
But what are some things that you could say to them to start more of a personal level, to put the business aside to just develop that friendship?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer right there. Develop a rapport with the person, find some things that they have in common. Reach out to them in friendship and say, I'd like to know more about you and how you conduct yourself.
Easier said than done. I'm looking more for examples from your expert.
Yeah, well, I guess that's an example that I would give. I think is just reaching out to someone and being a friend to them. That in my expertise, that's what I would do with someone. I don't know if that necessarily answers it very well, but that's the way that I would cope with it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else have a question or a comment? Yeah, Eva?
What is your personal brand in 15, 17, or 19 words? Go.
I should have known she was going to ask me this. Well, my personal brand, in fact, I can even do it in less than that. My work makes yours easier. I think of that as my personal brand. I don't know how well that resonates with people, but when I first came to Toronto back in the 80s, I worked with the Anglican Church of Canada for a few years, and one of our suppliers had that as their corporate slogan, my work makes yours easier. And so that's what I think of as my personal brand. That's my personal brand statement. I want to do whatever I can to serve people, to help people, to make their lives easier, to be able to work more efficiently. So that's my statement. My work makes yours easier.
And I certainly want to say to the group that Greg Brown, he is a very dear and good friend, and he knows what the pay it forward attitude. He is a classic example of giving and reaching out. If you ever have any questions, or want something, Greg is. He is very giving.
Thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. That's actually a nice lead-in, because this is how I want to finish my presentation, is by offering a few thank yous and acknowledgments, in particular to people who provided inspiration and support and encouragement to me as I worked on this presentation. So let me begin. First of all, I want to send out a shout out to Robin Wright, our Executive Director, Jim Garrity, our President, and all the gang at Happen. I think I've mentioned Happen a few times during this presentation. We've been around since 1991, and we've helped thousands of executives and managers find their next job through networking. That's really how I got introduced to networking, was through Happen. You can find out more about us by visiting our website, www.happen.ca. Martin Buckland. Martin is not just a longtime friend of mine, but I believe he's one of the world's leading authorities on resumes, interview preparation, social media, career management. Martin is really a fascinating guy. He's originally from England, worked for many years as a detective at Scotland Yard, and then came to Canada, I think in the late 80s, I believe, and worked with the RCMP, retired, and didn't find that retirement was for him, so he tried to have something totally different. Yeah.
Greg, would you be willing to share your slides with us?
Yeah, yes I will, absolutely, be glad to. Yeah, Martin, yeah, and by the way, Martin said to me that he would love to come and speak to you guys sometime. He was our speaker in, I think it was, when was it, Eva? Was it Tuesday?
Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday in Mississauga. I told Martin that I was coming here tonight, and he told me he would be delighted to come and speak to you guys, so I'll give you his contact information. You can find him at nleresume.com. Paul Cupcut, I talked about him earlier when I was talking about personal branding. Paul is another Brit, another great friend of mine, and actually he knows Martin very well too. They're very good friends with each other. And I believe Paul is one of Canada's leading experts on personal branding. He was a wonderful influence to me when I started talking about this presentation. So Paul, if you're watching this right now, thanks so much for your support and your input. You can find Paul at squarepegsolution.com, and I'm sure he would be delighted to come and see you guys sometime too. Allison Graham. Allison, you may have heard of her. She's a corporate consultant, keynote speaker. She's a writer for publications like Sun Media and the Huffington Post. She's the author of a wonderful book all about networking. It's called From Business Cards to Business Relationships, Personal Branding and Profitable Networking Made Easy. So you may recall my section a few minutes ago of personal branding. A lot of that I got from her and from Paul. She was a big help to me when I was putting that together. You can find her at elevatebiz.com. And again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I'm sure she'd be happy to come out and see you guys sometime too. Believe me, I can. In fact, I have helped you people get some speakers in the past. I'm more than happy to do that. And here's one of them, and you know, because I did help you bring Donna. I think it was last April, I think, when she was here with all of you. And of course, so I don't need to tell you a lot about Donna, except to say that, you know, I talked earlier about Malcolm Gladwell's the idea of connectors. To me, Donna is the connector personified. This woman is absolutely incredible. She knows so many people in so many places. I have seen her happen in other settings, and you know, I get tired just watching her because she knows so many people in so many different places. She's just fabulous. And you can get her at connectuscanada.com. I want to talk on family and friends. I talked about my mother earlier. She's, you know, when talking about a positive attitude, she's always been my greatest champion. Mom, I love you. She's just great. You know, she's been a real blessing to me. A lot of friends who have been a source of love and friendship. And I want to salute Eva, because I know she talked about me earlier. I want to pay her back. I first met Eva in 2008. She came to a couple of Happen meetings, and over the last 5 years, we've become wonderful friends, and I'm so blessed to have her in my life. If you have Eva as a friend, you're very blessed beyond measure. I don't mind telling you that. Eva, thank you very much. I can never thank you enough for your friendship and your support and your encouragement and all you do for me. Thank you. She, of course, she was the one who put me in touch with your association. So in a way, you can almost say if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here tonight. You'd probably have somebody else speaking. And those of you watching on video, you'd be watching something else right now. So I want to talk about that. And I want to thank all of you people too. It's been an honor being with you here tonight. I've really enjoyed my time here. And as I think I said at the beginning, this is the Association of Administrative Assistants, Hamilton branch. If you're watching this right now and you're in the Hamilton, Burlington, GTA area, if you're an admin assistant or a related profession, I don't know what your membership requirements are, but you know, if you're watching this right now and you think that these people can help you, come and join them. I'm sure they'd love to have you. You can find them on the web, www.aaa.ca/hamilton.php. For those of you watching this right now from outside the Hamilton area, I know this association has chapters across North America. I'm sure you can find one that's in your neighborhood. I would encourage you to come out and join them as well. And I want to thank all of you for, you know, those of you who are in the room right now. I'm so honored that so many of you came out to hear me tonight. This is just fabulous. It's a real rush for me to stand here and look out and see all of you. This is just great. And I want to thank those of you watching this on video. I want to thank everybody for participating in this. This has really been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed being with you all tonight. Finally, I did promise you all some contact information where you could find me. So I'm just going to quickly rifle through this. My name, of course. I do live in Hamilton. For those of you who don't know where Forest Avenue is, it's actually not that far from the Hamilton Ghost Center. I'm roughly in the James, John, and Hunter area. If you know where the Hamilton Ghost Center is, I'm just up the street from that. In fact, I'm close enough I can actually see it from my balcony, which is nice because when I go anywhere on go, I can walk there to the station in 5 minutes. I just love it. There's my phone number, my email address. I have my own website, gregcbrown.com. I put up this particular page, gregcbrown.com/marketing.html, because yes, I don't just want to talk about networking. I've got to do it too. I'm a freelancer. What I do with Happen is just a part-time thing. So people often ask me, well, okay, Greg, so you only do Happen part-time. What do you do the rest of the time? Or how is it that we can help you move forward in your career? So I've designed that page on my website. That's kind of a one-stop place. So people can go to gregcbrown.com/marketing.html and they can find out about all my skills and all my attributes and how I can help people. So I would encourage people to do that, to do that, yes. And finally, there's my LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/in/GCBrown1956. That's where you can find me on LinkedIn. And those of you who are here in the room, if you want me to join your networks, please feel free to send me an invitation. I'd be delighted. Those of you watching on video, take a look at my profile, and if you're interested, send me an invitation. And of course, bear in mind what I said earlier. I'd like a personalized one. Don't just send me the generic. Tell me that you care. Tell me that you want to network with me. Now, here's one more thing. Anybody know what this thing is? What is it?
It's a scanning barcode. I was just going to ask you, can I use my phone to code that?
Yes, you can. Yeah, well, that's what's called the QR code. Quick response code, to be more specific. If you're not familiar with the concept, it was actually designed by an engineer from Toyota in Japan back in, I think, about 1989 or 1990. So the technology is about just over 20 years old. And for the longest time, it was popular in Asia and Europe. In the last couple of years now, it's starting to come in North America. You see them on bus shelters and places like that. And actually, Martin Buckland, who I talked about a couple minutes ago, Martin did a presentation, I think roughly a year ago it happened, where he talked about QR codes. And you can go to a site called visibility.com, and that's visibility with a Z, or a Z if there are any Americans watching this presentation. But visibility.com, that'll give you all the information you need about how to design your own QR code. I have one on my business card, I have one on here. And of course, I want to hallmark my two alma maters. I really do believe they're Canada's two best universities, although I don't want to slight those of you in the room who have not gone to either McGill or the University of Toronto, or U of T, as most people in this part of the world call it. But of course, I wanted to salute that too. And of course, you'll notice in the shield here for McGill, that was one of the Latin statements I had earlier, in Domino, Confido, in God we trust. All right, so that's it. Thank you all very much for being a very attentive audience. I hope I haven't bored you to death over the last little while. It's been an honor and a real pleasure being here. If you'd like me to come back sometime and do this again, or if you want me to try another presentation, I would be delighted to. So thank you all very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So Greg?
Oh, you want me to come
Yeah,
back?
you
Okay.
can come back. On behalf of the association, we do work together to accomplish more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I always have had my motto in life is to accentuate the positive and always look on the bright side. So
Yeah.
thank you for reminding everyone else that.
Well, yes, in fact, that was another song I mentioned when I did my presentation to Mom. If you've ever seen, Monty Python, always look on the bright side of life. That's another one. Thank you very much,
As a good
Janet.
friend has said at work, life isn't a dress rehearsal. So.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
So thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you
Thank
so
you very much
much.
for coming. It was our
Thank
pleasure.
you, I appreciated
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
So ladies, do you